Born and Buried and Born by Jann Arden. My mother's mother was one of 17 children born to immigrant parents. They traveled to Canada from places in Europe no one had ever heard of, by boat and then by train, then by horse and wagon. They headed west. The Canadian government had offered free land. The possibility of hope was palpable. It was a hard hope, often a lost hope. Two young, naive people who didn't speak yet a handful of English pounded wooden stakes into the earth, into their land, and they started a farm. Some pigs, some seeds. They built a sod house out of the land, and they were given by the government who needed people to make the country grow. 17 children would make the country grow, for sure. Winters were miserable in a sod house. They were finally able to build a small wooden house for all of their children, and even had a stove and windows. Everyone cheered. There were many, many happy days sprinkled with constant hardship. My grandmother died at 47 years old, giving birth to her last baby, a boy. He was never well. He was small and frail and endlessly crying. His sisters raised him together on the family farm, but they were all kids themselves, really. They should have given him to a neighbor, but they didn't. The devastation was like a storm. It poured itself on every blade of grass. My great aunt let the younger children call her mother because she was their mother now. My gram was 6. My gram had no memories of her real mother. She wished she did, but there weren't any to be found, just ghosts. She couldn't recall any details of her mother's face. My grandmother remembered her kindness. She remembered when her older sisters told her stories of their mother. She hung her heart on every word. The heartbreaks were determined little things. My grand's little sister died the following summer of appendicitis. In the same little house her mother had died in the year before, probably even the same little bed. Her last words were, "They've come to take me home." One or two of the older boys dropped dead in the field a few years later, in their teens. The story was never completely clear. Details got buried as time went by, buried and born and buried. Their gravestones are still there somewhere, said my great aunt. We still have bad hearts. We think they had bad hearts. Gravestones of children who didn't have much of a chance to be people. They worked long days under the weight of an alcoholic father who drank even more when his wife died in childbirth. My great aunt said her brothers might even have died from sadness. How's anyone to know? It's been too many years, said my great aunt as she puffed away on her long cigarette. I think it's your deal, she said to me as she took a long, cold slug of beer. I loved all the stories. They changed my DNA. They helped me make me me. My great aunt told me that you can't eat hatred. Hatred will eat you. My grandfather was a tyrant who was feared by the entire family, unpredictable and violent, and he liked to sing. The Indians liked him a lot. My great aunt always said the word Indian like it was a curse. My discomfort was slathered in forgiveness. My great aunt came from another time. She told me a story about her drunk father one night as we played gin rummy. She told me how he dug a hole in the yard one morning after a 2-week bender, buried all the furniture. He buried all the furniture, the china cabinet and all the dishes and the organ. Nobody knew why. Everybody stood there and cried as he pushed the cold dirt over everything they owned with an old tractor. My gran said she was glad that her mother had died. She didn't have to witness what they all saw. The kids had survived, left the farm, and they left one by one. 2 of the boys stayed and built nice houses and had their own families. They are still there to this day. The original little wooden house is now a pig barn. I went there a few years ago, stood there where the kitchen might have been, and I said a prayer. I want to go on a treasure hunt and find that old organ, but it's long since gone. Like all those children born to immigrants that came here for a better life. I know that it's me that ended up with a better life. Maybe that was the plan all along.